What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am he. And on today's episode, we are talking Lakers. The purple and gold. And let me say right off the bat, this might be a little longer video in duration than the last few because there's a lot to discuss in Lakerland. And in all fairness now, it's very early. In fact, I wanted to wait before I did my first Laker video. The season is now 15% done. 13 games in the books. And the Lakers are 7-6. So just over 500 after 13 games. And that in and of itself isn't what is troubling per se, because here's the thing. The Lakers had massive turnover from last season's lineup to this season. Now, turnover is a word that's going to come into play more than a time or two, unfortunately, in this video. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. When I reference turnover in this specific example, I'm talking about changeover from lineups from a year ago. In fact, from 12 players on last year's lineup, only 3 return. So 9 new players on this year's roster. And this is going to take time to meld, to bring in all of these disparate players, this brand new collection that has been quickly assembled in one offseason, thrown together for the first time. And some of these players have played together before in different places and even with the Lakers. But this particular group, the 2021-22 Los Angeles Lakers, is comprised of 9 new players from the year before. That takes time to blend, to meld, to get that stew just right. And I understand that. And it is a long season now. It's an 82-game grind. So at 13 games in, 15% of the season in, it's still very early. But there is enough data now to make some assessments, to make some judgments. And that's what we're going to do here today. Thank you for joining me. And if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And let's get right into it. This is what I see. The pros. Well, listen, the Lakers have assembled a dream team, a super team, albeit of older players. In fact, I believe this is the oldest average age lineup assembled ever in NBA history. Of course, LeBron is the straw that stirs this drink. And LeBron is getting up in age, as we all know. I believe this is his 19th season. But with all that experience, with all those miles, all those NBA years, and these aren't, the thing is, these aren't guys that have hung on to the end. These are guys who have, for the most part, managed to still perform at a pretty high level, even later into their careers. So there is experience there. That is a big pro. Of course, you've got Hall of Famers who will be first ballot Hall of Famers now, still playing on this lineup, on this roster. And so with all these potential Hall of Famers, I mean, it's possible that there's 4 or 5 of them on this lineup. You have great experience. These guys know about winning. They know what it takes. And it's not just the wisdom which they have accumulated, but these guys are superstar athletes, even if they're past their prime, most of them. So the cons are there, and you hope that this dream team, this super team that has been assembled under the direction of General Manager Lebron and coached by head coach Lebron. I'm going to do a video shortly about why LeBron James is actually head coach of the LA Lakers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've got video evidence, but that's going to be another video. But LeBron has put together, of course, with the assistance of Pelinka and the front office, and with the assistance of the coaching staff, and we'll get back to Vogel. He's put together a who's who of NBA talent, all-stars, who have outstanding experience, superstar talent, and should be able to win ball games. So that's massive for the pro side of the ledger. But the cons, the same thing that is a blessing may also be the curse. The same thing that is your biggest asset can also be your greatest detriment. The flip side of experience is age, mileage. And these rides, no matter how well preserved they may appear, they've got miles on them, ladies and gentlemen. So, with age comes proclivity to injury. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that from the top down with LeBron. With age also comes, quite often, inconsistency. You look great on the first game of a back-to-back, but that second game, you get run out the gym, for example. These can be symptoms of age. Defensive lapses, not giving full throttle for spurts of the game, coasting at times, looking around like I thought you were going to do it. These can be symptoms of an aging team. Slowing down, young guys able to run you. And we've seen that early on. Another con that I see that potentially could be the demise of the Lakers, that has already reared its ugly head. Personality clashes. You've got all these different guys who have been the man in this situation or on that team these many years ago or for this long. Guys who have muscle memory of great success on the highest levels in pro sports, in the NBA, who now are on the back end of their careers, the twilight, and have found themselves all now assembled together as Los Angeles Lakers. Those personalities can be combustible. And we've seen it already. What in the hell was that situation with Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis several games ago, near the beginning of the season? What was that? We still don't know. They just said, hey, we squashed it. It's squashed, nothing to see here. Okay, fine, but there was something to see. We saw it. Magic tweeted with disgust. Oh, shaking my head. I've never seen such a display in all my 40 years with the Lakers, etc., etc. Nothing to see here. We squashed it. Okay, but what was that? I mean, it wasn't just a little dust up where, a couple teammates are saying, you were supposed to have that guy, or what about this rotation, or hey, what, you missed me, I was open. No, it was like physical. I mean, laying hands and shoving and, players running in to intervene. What was that? It wasn't something in practice that was rumored about. It happened during the game. Televised nationally. We all saw it. Personalities. I'm going to go briefly over the lineup that we have this year's LA Lakers. And you'll see how those personalities could be combustible. But before that, my final con on the ledger is coaching. I'm just not sold on Frank Vogel. And this goes back before this year. I was squawking about Vogel during the playoffs last year. How mismanaged and disorganized he seemed to conduct his business. The way he improperly deployed the use of Montrez. The random DNPs during the playoffs. The weird lineup rotations. So all of these things are there. And with age and with disparate combustible personalities, you need strong, stable, rational coaching. I'm not sure we have that. And so we're seeing this 15% of the season now. It's a grind. It's a long one. 13 games in, they're 7-6, but we're seeing it on display. They're squeaking to wins, back-to-back overtime wins just recently. And people were feeling better in Lakerland. Oh, they won. Yes, these were OT victories that they could have easily lost, both of them. Yes, we still saw, during those wins, we still saw the plaguing, burning turnover problems. And now I'm talking about bumbling, fumbling, stumbling turnovers. Whoops, there she goes, out of bounds turnovers. Throwing the ball, Russ off of AD's head turnovers. Whoopsie. Squeaking to wins against, and let's be honest, these aren't superior foes that the Lakers are playing early on. Middling talent, average teams, decent teams, but they're squeaking to wins. Ooh, got one. Ooh. Yet being blown out in the losses. Tonight's game, the 6th loss against 7 victories. It was disturbing. After those 2 squeaker OT wins, the last one against Miami, the one before that against Charlotte, after those 2 wins, well, people were saying, okay, now I think we've turned the corner now. We kind of got it. Now we're getting there. And then this egg was dropped tonight. Blown out by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Lakers went into halftime with a 5-point lead. And at points during the 3rd quarter, they were down 30. Blew them out! A 28-point Minnesota differential in that 3rd quarter. Disturbing. Troubling. And yes, I know LeBron, for the most part, hasn't been there. He's only played in a handful of games. 3 games, maybe, out of this first 13. So yes, I completely understand that when LeBron is back and healthy, and hopefully that will be the case, that he will be back and healthy. Because that's the only hope, really, that the Lakers have to accomplish the goal that they want to accomplish. And see, that's the thing that I'm talking about with age. How healthy can he be? Over the course of a long season, when it seems to me that now he's in this recurring injury cycle. It's one thing after the next. This was not LeBron's MO. LeBron was indestructible. LeBron was Iron Man. Now, he's sustaining mysterious injuries. That abdominal injury, I don't know where that, it may have come from that reverse dunk he threw up. Because when I watched that reverse dunk replay and he threw it down, and it's like he didn't look joyous. He kind of looked like, oh, I don't know if I should have done that. And it wasn't long after that, you saw him in the tunnel. And I'm like, what's wrong with Bron? Nobody ran into his ankle this time. No slip on a water spot or anything. And yet there he was in the tunnel, crouched down, grimacing in pain with the training staff around him with looks of concern. And I'm like, age. So how healthy will LeBron be for the season? And when will this be? And will he be able to sustain health for the duration of the grind? And that is only to get to the playoffs. And then the real second season begins. The real push begins. I'll be honest with you. I'm concerned. Sure, I am. Because the NBA is not known as an older gentleman's sport. Okay? Youth and energy go a long way in the NBA. So beside LeBron, after 13 games, you see these other injuries. Ariza has yet to play. THT is yet to play. Other guys are in and out. Rondo's in and out. AD seems to get hurt every game. And I don't know which one is going to be the one that's going to cost him time. But he has that rubber band man quality where he does seem to come back after, sometimes he's got to walk it off. Sometimes he's got to go into the tunnel. Sometimes he has to just kind of bend over and roll around a little while. But he seems to come back. AD is one of the younger ones. So there's all these injuries now. LeBron, AD, you got older guys like Rondo. You have older guys. And it's harder to come back from an injury. It takes longer. Healing isn't as quick. Turn an ankle now, it might take you a few weeks. Then, on top of that, you've got to blend all these personalities together. Make this thing run. That is going to be a challenge that might take the entire season. I could envision how this could go well beyond the All-Star break, trying to blend this all together. People hurting out and in and out of the lineup and back and forth. Inconsistent play, nagging injuries, multiple lineup changes, Vogel experimenting. I'm trying to find this. I'm trying to look for that. How deep into the season will that whole process take? Then the chemistry. Russell Westbrook is a chemistry challenge. And I'm sure that's been the case for every team he's been on. And you're trying to blend Russ and Rondo, trying to blend Dwight and AD, and all these guys that are in and out, and some haven't played, and there's none, and Ariza's not there yet, and we're going to blend THT in, and you got a rookie Reeves, and then he's out. Deandre Jordan is not fossilized, but, he's more like an elderly statesman in the NBA now. And so the task is daunting. Let's get to the lineup for this year's 2021 LA Lakers. And of course, we start off with the chosen one, LBJ, Bron, the king. And as we've just discussed, he looked great when he's there. But how much are these injuries going to hamper him this year? We talked about AD. He is injury prone, and he's one of the younger Lakers. As an aside, I think there was a lot of talk initially about AD becoming the heir apparent and LeBron passing the baton from LeBron's throne to AD as the next Laker king. I don't know that I see that. Just remember, I'm a guy on the couch. But what I see, I think AD is more like an injury-prone Robin. Gee willikers, Batman my thumb. He's a skilled Robin, talented, exceptional Robin. I don't know that I see AD ever being the guy. maybe in time, over years, he'll grow into it still. And I don't rule that out. But the leadership part of it and the focus part of it and the consistency part of it, he still, for me, tends to fade in and out too much, disappear. He has lapses, lulls. And then there's almost this catastrophic looking injury scenario with him every game. THT, talented young guy, talented player. He's been out the entire season thus far. I'm not sure when he'll be back, but I expect that when he does get back out there, he's going to contribute and be a positive factor. And he's one of the youngest Lakers. And of the 3 players that returned, these 3 are the only 3. LeBron, the King, AD, Robin, and THT. Everyone else changed over. Let's go over the other 9, the changed, the new Lakers. And some of these are new old Lakers. Yeah. Well, welcome back, Rondo. I am glad to see Rondo back in purple and gold. I believe he contributes a lot in terms of not just basketball, but in terms of leadership and demeanor. I think he's a good fit for the club. He's an older guy, and he is injury prone also. And so you can almost be sure that it won't be too long before Rondo's going to be in street clothes again. And that's just going to be an off and on thing for Rondo. Welcome back, Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is not injury prone. And even though Dwight is an older player, Dwight still has a strong physical presence. He still has an edge. And sometimes that bites him, because he gets into the antics. And maybe that had something to do with him and AD. I don't know. We don't know. But welcome back, Dwight Howard. Still valuable. And then we got the new guys. The aforementioned, not quite fossilized, Deandre Jordan. I'm not sure how that experiment's going to work. It seems to me that what they've been doing up until the last couple of games is starting Deandre Jordan at the beginning of the first and third quarter, and then he kind of pretty much is gone. So I don't even know what that gives you, what the point of that all is. That has not happened recently. As of tonight, for sure, Deandre was not in the starting lineup. And then we have the other new guys. So let's just quickly go through. Oh, welcome back, Trevor Ariza, still hurt. Another stint as a Laker. He's always been an athletic and I would say a plus player. He gives you multiple things, not just scoring, but up in years. And again, we haven't seen him on the court yet. And so these injuries, it takes longer to recover. So what will Ariza be able to give us once he's back? We'll see. Only time's going to provide that answer. But the other new guys, let's just quickly go down the list. Bazemore, I'm not sold. In fact, once everything shakes out and everybody's back, it wouldn't really shock me if Bazemore ends up being not on the active roster. But we'll see how that plays out. What I'm seeing so far is not impressive. Monk has flashes, and I think he's more or less one of those players who's going to be inconsistent from night to night. A couple nights ago, he put up 27. Tonight, you barely saw him. Missed a lot of shots. And I've seen a couple or 3 games with him where, he can't buy a basket. And then he'll get hot and hit threes and hit a half-court logo shot. And so he may or may not be one of those inconsistent guys that you just don't know what you'll get from night to night. He'll be streaky, and one night he might light it up, and then the next night he might not score at all. I think Ellington is a good pickup from what I've seen so far. Now, he's been hurt also, and he's working his way back. But from what I've seen and my recollection of him, I think that is going to be a helpful pickup for the Lakers along the way. I think Reeves is showing himself to be an excellent rookie so far. He is a rookie. Vogel's given him a lot of playing time, and now he's hurt, and I don't know how significant his injury is. But from what I've seen of him so far, looks like a really good rookie. And then, of course, there's Russ. Russ. Okay, how much time do I have? I want to try to keep this relatively short. Russell Westbrook. Wow. Russell Westbrook is the biggest question mark on the team in my mind. For example, right now, as we speak, he's averaging 19, 9, and 8. Just about a triple-double. He's also leading the league in turnovers and averaging about 6 turnovers per game. And they come at the most inopportune times. Ask Anthony Davis' face about one of them. The thing with Russ is there's love and hate. I love his passion for the game. I love the energy he exudes. I love his fearlessness and his will to be great. But your greatest blessing can also be your biggest curse. And there is no finer example of that than Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is many things, a contradiction, a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a conundrum, if you will. He's certainly a first ballot Hall of Fame player. Okay? And he's not that old. He's only early 30s, 32, I believe. And yet, every year he's on a new team. He's never won a championship. There are many people who think he never will. I hope that that's obviously not the case since he's now a Laker. Russell Westbrook is willful, yes, which is good and bad. Obstinate, surly. Yes, he's passionate, but he seems to be a contrarian at the same time. He's volatile and he is remorseless. He seems to have no conscience, and this is an awful characteristic for your primary point guard and ball handler. He has, let's say, an awkward feel for the game. It doesn't seem as though he understands situations very well. And so people have questioned his basketball IQ. And I've seen all of these things on display in just his first 13 games. I've seen Russell Westbrook after having thrown up brick after brick, pass up a wide open Carmelo Anthony and elect to take the game-winning shot and brick it on more than one occasion. Your biggest blessing can be your greatest curse. And so with Russell Westbrook, I find myself, I applaud him, I cheer for him, and yet he's cringeworthy. There are times when I'm gripping the side of my chair when he takes a shot. I don't trust his judgment, and that's tough for a point guard. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I did not say thank God the Lakers have signed Carmelo Anthony. Melo has been a revelation as a sixth man. He's really been sixth man of the year so far this year. His shot has been beautiful and pure, especially at home. And the Lakers have played the majority of their games at home, which is yet another troubling aspect. That they're 7-6 and blowing big leads and getting blown out at home against mediocre teams, albeit without LBJ. But thank God we have Carmelo Anthony. Give that man an additional year or two. Give him at least one more year. Now, go ahead and sign Carmelo up for another year. Bring him back. He's a crowd favorite. He seems to love it at Staples. He loves wearing the purple and gold. And he has been much more than we would have hoped for so far. So I'm extremely happy to welcome Melo to the squad. Anyway, I don't want to take this much further. I've got more Laker content coming up. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe. Thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Am I being too hard? Am I being too hasty? Do you think I need to give it more time? Is it time to sound the alarm? Let me know, Laker Nation. Scotty says, one love. Until next time, my folks.